Hello, everyone. Today with us is joined EDIN KOLJENOVIĆ from Regional Youth Cooperation Office from Montenegro. Hello, EDIN. Please, if you want, you can introduce yourselves and maybe a bit more about RYCO.
Hello, Maya. Good morning to you and all your colleagues from the Youth Initiative in Belgrade and from the region. Thank you for the invitation. It is my pleasure to be part of this project also and of the Youth Summit. I'm basically someone who was very much involved in the past time in the Youth Initiative Network and Youth Initiative programs and projects, and especially Youth Summits in the region. So I'm really aware of the importance of this event. So thank you for the invitation. As you already said, I'm the head of the local branch office here in Montenegro. Someone also who was for more than a decade very actively involved in the regional networks, youth cooperation, peace building movements, human rights movements, and basically this is something which is my passion. So after my time in civil society, I started working for the Regional Youth Cooperation Office as a peace building initiative and organization. So as you may know as well, the Regional Youth Cooperation Office has been established in 2016 within one very important regional political process, I would say, called Berlin process, where the governments of the Western Balkan region, but also strongly European Commission and the German and French government said that, okay, guys, in the Western Balkans, you have to cooperate on different levels, but one of the most important pillars of this cooperation should be the youth cooperation and bringing young people together. And that finally, from 2016 and then 17, the idea was that after the decades of the programs of the civil society, now the governments need to send this political message that this is something which really is needed for the Western Balkan region. So this is basically RYCO, the regional intergovernmental structure with the head office in Tirana and the 6 local branch offices in the Western Balkan regions, so Sarajevo, Belgrade, Pristina, Podgorica, Tirana, and Skopje. And we are basically providing opportunities for young people to meet, exchange, to be part of our mobility programs.
Thank you so much. So the first question for you is, why is regional cooperation important for you, and why is it important for us as citizens of these countries from the region, the countries which aim to be democratic?
I'm really passionate about the cooperation and dialogue. So these are my core values, and I think that these are core values of democratic societies. But we really need to understand that cooperation in general principles is a precondition for all other success. And we have it as examples in the history. So we don't need to invent the reasons or to get philosophic about it. So we are aware, and I will make a comparison, that in the Europe as a continent, more or less Europe was hit by the wars permanently during the centuries until the biggest war in the history, which destroyed the Europe, and that's the Second World War. After that, the political leaders who were visionaries had a clear vision that this shouldn't happen ever again in the Europe especially. So they understood clearly that one of the main and first steps in this regard is to bring those different sides during the war together. And I will remind you that everything started with the coal and steel as the main products of the war, and they established the European community for coal and steel for the cooperation. So this is how it started. Then with the predecessor of the European Union, European Economic Community. So this is why the cooperation is needed. So when you cooperate, you are bringing together different sides. You are finding what are the areas of the joint interest, and you are then also becoming closer, and you are learning about each other. So this is why cooperation is very much needed. If we see now that in Europe, we have the longest period of the peace in the history, we are should be very much aware how this is important. The peace building initiative and the peace building processes. If we are speaking about the peace building, it's a very broad and wide topic. It consists of different processes, different approach, different actions. And of course, I mentioned the European Economic Community and the Community for Coal and Steel, but at some point also they in the European Union figure out that, okay, we still have a young people who are very much burdened by the past and the conflicts during the war. And still, believe me, I was very often over there in Paris and Berlin. Sometimes we think that they did it like this. No, it didn't happen like this, you know. Even decades after the war, there was huge distance between French and German young people. There was problem in the media, how they were presenting themselves. So this is a process, and this is something which also we need, and I will speak about it, you know, applying it in the Western Balkan region, what we do need to understand how the processes are going, and that, you know, peace building is not a short and easygoing process. And basically what they understood is that they need to bring young people together as well, especially from France and Germany, and they established in 1963 the OFAGE, Franco-German Youth Office, who is up until now actively bringing French and German young people together. So I think that that is a good example of how and why actually the cooperation, especially youth cooperation, is important. If we talk about the Western Balkan region, I do personally believe that we cannot move forward in the region if we do not trust each other, if we do not cooperate at any level. So we cannot build our economies, we cannot be competent to the European market. Our culture and science, everything will be a lower degree. So all of our potential we actually can use if we cooperate, because we have a lot of common, of course, during the history, a lot of diversity, but again, you know, the diversity is something which is a benefit for all of us here, and which we should use smart together and not against each other. So this is why I would say very clearly regional cooperation is needed. It's a precondition, first of all, for a peace. And this is something which we need to understand. Without peace, stability, and security, you cannot do anything else. So we are really not serious if we think that we can be in conflicts in the region, having far-right structures, having populism in the region, which is popular, and then again cooperating and move forward. So this really needs to be a consensus about the core values. And in that regard, we of course need to work with the young people, first of all, by building new generations. And this is what we are doing in the regional youth cooperation. So we are developing programs, different kind of programs, where we are basically investing in young people and building new generation. And what I always like to say is that we have a different kind of the programs. So from the high school students, civil society organization, all of them are intercultural, regional, including mobility, but the core value is actually the raising the awareness and capacity of the young people when it comes to cooperation, dialogue, and intercultural learning, and learning about each other. And bottom line is, for me, raising their immunity for the populism, nationalism, and in this kind, of course, prevention of further conflicts, etc. I always like to say to these young people, if we want to cooperate in the future, we need to sit together, and those young people will be the future generations of politicians, businessmen, cultural workers, scientists, I don't know, whatsoever, but they will need to sit together at the same table and to bring decisions which are of benefit for the region. If this doesn't go in this direction, we are very much aware that there are a lot of other ways which we don't want to see again, and which the region have faced very difficultly during the 90s, with a lot of casualties and consequences, and the people lost their lives, and the war crimes. So I'm sure that we are all aware that this is not the road, and that we know and actually have experience and support from the European partners how to move forward.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. You already somehow referred to my second and third question, but I have to ask you, do you think the peace building is the most crucial part of the regional cooperation, or is it something else? Because people would argue it may be economic, that's economy actually that would that comes first, that we need to connect in that way first. But do you think not the case, or I mean, you already said, but if you want to explain a bit more.
I would also say that this is not something which is excluding each other, you know. I don't see it like it's excluding each other. I really see that also economic cooperation is a peace building thing, you know. So through the meaningful economic cooperation, we are also doing the peace building. This is why we in Regional Youth Cooperation Office we have ideas of including young entrepreneurs also in the processes, and, you know, deal with the employment and use the employment issue in the region and creating new jobs through the, you know, and use for the intercultural learning and getting to know. So really, as I said, the peace building really is a precondition in terms of having political stability and security in the region. But for me, it's a very broad. So it's not only sitting and talking about dealing with the past, about war crimes, about intercultural learning, maybe directly, but also for me, peace building is when we have a group from different contracting parties from the region who are together, learning about each other, finding areas to cooperate in the future, establish friendships and partnership, and then there are also people who will make a change in their own community and say, okay, I had this great cooperation with these guys from Albania or North Macedonia, or I don't know, Serbia, Montenegro. You know, they are very honest. We had a good cooperation. We made the money. We opened the new jobs. You know, and that's it. So this is what is basically, because bottom line, we believe that people actually are not trusting each other, not because of the real reasons, but because of the stereotypes and prejudice, and because not being aware about really about the characteristics of the identity, different identities, and that basically all this diversity is not excluding each other, is not jeopardizing each other in the Western Balkan region. So that would be my answer, really that the youth peace building is a broader process, which is composed of a bunch of smaller processes which needed to be, of course, coordinated. But I believe that without a proper, of course, foundations, which is trust, you know, trust, getting to know each other, we cannot do it on the long term.
Yeah, thank you. For the last question, it's a broad one. What do you think is the future for our region? Let's say in the next 10 years, what do you think will be the most crucial thing to?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Very often with my colleagues, I'm referring to like more than 10 years ago when I was at the college, when I was a student, that in 10 years we were expecting all of our contracting parties will be basically in the European Union, and that we will live the European Union life. So unfortunately, the pace and the speed of these processes were not how we expected, but I really do believe that this is the goal of our countries, and this is our place. Not in terms of membership, to be very honest, but in terms of reforming processes of our institutions in Montenegro, in the region, everywhere in the region, building our democracies, building our institutions, consolidating our democracy. So in 10 years, I really see that this is how our Western Balkan is going to look like as a part of the European family, but not because they are going to push us over there or we are going to jump over there, but because we are going to be ready. When I spoke with foreign representatives here, especially Germans and French diplomats, they're saying it is up to you. It can be done in 2 or 3 years, and it can be done in 10 years. So basically, I think that it's up to us to really speed up these processes. And from my point of view, it's very important for everywhere in the region to have this as a consensus, and that all the contracting parties from the Western Balkan regions understand that this is, of course, of course, the goal and everyone to do and to work into this process. If we left anyone behind, you know, if any of the Western Balkans is left behind in any way, I'm not saying that we should enter all together in the same year, but everyone should aim at it. So everyone should be pro-West oriented, and no one should be left behind, because that would be a huge burden and the problem for the future of the Western Balkan region. And why I'm referring to this building of our democracies is because basically whatever we do in the RYCO is complementary with the processes of the transformation of our societies and our countries, and building our democracies. So basically all the preparation of the young generations also to be for the cooperation and for peace building and intercultural learning, basically in parallel we are investing also through on their different capacities for to be active citizens, for participation, to be involved in decision-making processes, and to be accountable, but as well to hold accountable the representatives of the government and the government institution, because those are the core democratic values. This is why I see that really what RYCO is doing is a part of the helping the integration process and reforms process in the Western Balkan region, of course, through our unique mission, which is regional youth cooperation and investment in young people and young generation.
Thank you so much for the optimism and also for taking your time for this interview for us.
Thank you, Maya, for the invitation.
Thank you.